Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Work Seamlessly with Smartsheet and Microsoft 365. My name is Anna and I'm a product marketing manager here at Smartsheet. Today we're going to be talking about how Smartsheet easily integrates with Microsoft 365 applications to streamline your work, regardless of which tool you're working in. When working across Smartsheet and Microsoft, you can kick off your work by importing existing Excel or project files to create a new Smartsheet. In your Smartsheet, you can attach files directly from OneDrive to rows, sheets, and dashboards. And when you're working in Outlook, you can make updates to your Smartsheet directly from your inbox, creating tasks, attaching files or comments, and even attaching the entire email to a row. You can also collaborate with your teammates or others across your organization by chatting in Skype for Business directly in Smartsheet or viewing Smartsheet work and receiving notifications in Teams. There are also several avenues to view Smartsheet data in Microsoft as well as to view Microsoft data in Smartsheet. So Smartsheet dashboards, of course, offer the opportunity to create your own visuals to understand the work that you're managing in Smartsheet. But you can also sync Smartsheet data out to Power BI to create Power BI reports. You can view these reports directly in Power BI or take it back and actually embed them directly into a Smartsheet dashboard. Lastly, still working in your Smartsheet dashboards, you can also embed other Microsoft items like PowerPoint slides, Word or Excel documents, and Bing Maps. So the overarching theme, of course, is regardless of where you're working or where you want to absorb this information or share it with others that you're collaborating with, there is a flow of data that can help you get the information that's in Smartsheet out to Microsoft and any work that you're managing or storing in Microsoft into Smartsheet. Today, we're going to work across all of the apps that we've listed here to see how Smartsheet and Microsoft integrate smoothly together, empowering you and your organization to streamline processes and collaborate in the same work regardless of the applications you use. In today's demo, you're going to see how Smartsheet and Microsoft applications work together. To set up any of these processes, you may need to add additional permissions, and we've included links to step-by-step instructions for each of these integrations over to the right side of your webinar in the resources section and in the follow-up email that you'll receive after today's webinar. We're going to start in Smartsheet with some sheets that I'm collecting and tracking data in. In my sheet, I can work directly in the columns and rows, or I can work in the 3 collaboration columns over to the left. Here we have our comments column, which we'll look at when we're working in Outlook, and our attachments column, which allows me to attach files from a variety of sources. Here I can attach files that are available on the internet, in various cloud storage, as well as directly from my computer. So working with Microsoft specifically, I can attach files that I have available on OneDrive. You'll see that I have the PowerPoint for today's presentation available in my OneDrive, and I can go ahead and attach it directly to my row. Now, you can attach a variety of file types, and this makes it really easy for others that you're collaborating in your sheet with to know where all of this is stored instead of having to search around in cloud storage or bookmark a link. When I'm working in my first row, I can always click on my paperclip, find any of these files, and because they're actually stored on OneDrive, if I'm making changes to the PowerPoint itself, I don't have to come back to Smartsheet and re-upload. This is going to be a live link to the live file that's stored on OneDrive, and anyone who clicks on it will be able to access it based on the permissions you've shared through in the OneDrive file. By attaching these files to the relevant rows, sheets, or dashboards that you're working in Smartsheet, you're starting to promote the idea of working across a single source of truth. So there's no need to have items in OneDrive as well as attached to Smartsheet as well as in your computer. You're working across a single item that's attached to the relevant row in your Smartsheet. If I need clarification on any of the work that I'm managing in my Smartsheet or simply want to chat with a colleague, I can enable the Skype for Business integration by heading up to the top right to my profile and selecting Sign into Skype for Business. After I've signed in, I can right-click on any of my rows or select the down arrow to view the row menu. And you'll see as we head towards the bottom of our row menu, there's now an option for a new chat. And I can work directly in Skype for Business without leaving Smartsheet. And you'll notice really to help track all of these conversations, we have the option to save messages in row comments. So any conversations that I have here with my colleagues about the work that we're managing will be saved in the comment section and easily accessible if you need to reference back to that conversation or if anyone who is shared to the sheet needs to understand what conversations took place. Now, my team and I work in Smartsheet primarily, but some of the data that I need may be received through email. And for this, we're going to head into the first element that is actually going to kick off in Microsoft. When I'm working in Outlook, I can select an email and use the Smartsheet integration to find my sheet and attach files, make updates, or add comments. To do this, I'm going to head into my email menu where you will see a Smartsheet option on my screen. For anyone who has not enabled the Outlook integration yet, there are a couple steps that you're going to want to take that you can find in the Smartsheet Learning Center with step-by-step instructions, and depending on how your Microsoft account is set up, possibly permissions that your admin will need to enable for you. Once you have that set up, any email that you're working in Outlook, you can go ahead and select the Add to Smartsheet option. And here you're going to see my menu that we saw in Smartsheet. So I'll have access to any of my favorite items in Smartsheet, the workspaces that I'm in, as well as any other sheets or items that have been shared with me. We'll go ahead and find the workspace that I have for today's webinar, where I am using our data input and data collection template set, and we'll pull up the sheet we were just working in. This is a generic sheet from the Solution Center, meaning none of the values have been completed because this is one you can use for your own work. Any values that I had in the primary column in my sheet would be available here, and I can click on a row to see all of the details. Here I can update the row, so changing any of the values that we saw when we were in Smartsheet in this sheet and in this row, or I can head back to my sheet and actually add new rows with data from the email that I've received, or even add this email as an attachment if I want to capture the entire body of the email in a row in Smartsheet. Now any updates that I've made to my sheet, whether it's in the row or as a row comment, are available if I head back into my Smartsheet and refresh my sheet. This also makes this information available to others I've shared my sheet with, really allowing me to work outside of my siloed inbox and moving back into a more collaborative workspace like a Smartsheet. Now I can communicate through Skype directly in Smartsheet, or I can work in Smartsheet directly in Outlook anytime. So these are already allowing me to really update the same set of core data, regardless of whether I spend most of my time in Smartsheet or in Microsoft. I also can set up several additional Smartsheet features to drive collaboration through Microsoft Teams. There's going to be several ways to do this. First, I'm going to start in Smartsheet where I'd like to include either my sheet or maybe even a visual dashboard directly in Microsoft Teams. So to do that, I simply have to publish my item by heading up to the globe button at the top of a dashboard or to the right of a Smartsheet. Enable publishing. Now what publishing does is it allows me to make my Smartsheet, sheet, report, or dashboard publicly accessible. So this is a URL that you can visit just like you would a website. You'll see with publishing, I do have some access control, so I can enable Smartsheet to restrict access just to my organization, even with a publish link. Head back into Microsoft Teams here, and this is where I can actually add a tab with a Smartsheet item. I'll select Smartsheet from my apps list, and here we can locate the dashboard that we were working in. Because this is the dashboard, my option is to provide a read-only view of the information, and I'll go ahead and click Save. And now a Smartsheet tab with this dashboard is being added to Microsoft Teams. So all of this information is going to be live updating based on all of the details that we originally saw in our Smartsheet. Now, this works for sheets as well as dashboards. Dashboards are a great way to share information because, as you can see, it's visual, it's colorful, and it's organized. So I can easily tell what's important and provide a snapshot of all of that work. You'll see in Microsoft Teams here, we do have a couple other tabs that we've already added to provide different views into the work that's being managed in Smartsheet, all through the same steps that we just took. And here's a different example of actually including a sheet instead of a visual dashboard. So there's options here, the idea being that while you're managing this work in Smartsheet, you're spending a lot of times collaborating with your organization in Teams, and you can have that same information show up where this collaboration is happening, whether half the team prefers to work in Teams or in Smartsheet. In addition to embedding the information that we're working in directly into Microsoft Teams, I can actually also enable the notifications that I receive in Smartsheet to reach me in Microsoft Teams. I'm going to start by searching in Smartsheet at the very top here. We'll add Smartsheet to our apps list, and then we can go ahead and set up an automation in our sheet to see this in action. Going to create a very basic workflow. So I'm going to tell Smartsheet anytime that a row is added or changed, so basically anytime there's a change in a row in my sheet, I would like to alert Microsoft Teams. So we'll head down here to the very bottom. There's a couple different things to be aware of here. So when you're sending an alert, which is a notification of a change or a reminder, you can send this to yourself or to a Microsoft Teams channel. If you're sending a request for information like an update request or an approval request, that can be sent to individuals since it is a request for someone to update work that's being managed in Smartsheet. I'll go ahead and select the Alert a Microsoft Teams channel option. We'll select Smartsheet from my organization list, or if you haven't gone through this process before, you can add your own organization, and then we'll select a team that we're working on. Lastly, Smartsheet will pull up the channel that you'd like to send this alert to, and I'm going to go ahead and call this our demo alert. If you do receive any messaging about a blocked recipient, make sure you head up to the top of your automation menu here and unrestrict your automations, enabling Smartsheet to send information about the activity in Smartsheet directly to third-party apps like Microsoft Teams. Now that I've set up my automation, which again is going to trigger anytime there's any change in the rows in my sheet, let's go ahead and make a change. So I'm just going to go ahead and change the data type that we're working in our first row and save my sheet. I can see that based off of the change that we just made in our sheet, as well as the automation we set up to alert our Microsoft Teams channel, anytime that a change is made, we now have a new post available. So here you'll see the changes that I just made And working directly in Microsoft Teams, I can click on my sheet and get taken right back into the Smartsheet that we started in. Working in my Smartsheet tab, I'll go ahead and allow access to the Smartsheet bot. And now any notifications that I would receive in my notifications panel here in Smartsheet, I'm going to also see in Microsoft Teams. So this is my own personal notifications area, and that's 3 different ways that we're working across Smartsheet and Microsoft Teams. So we have our own Smartsheet bot chat where I know any automations that are intended solely for me will be found. We also have our actual teams. So if I go into my specific channel that I'm working in, this is where I can send specific automations to a channel, and I can also embed published items, whether it's a dashboard, which is what we looked at doing today, or a Smartsheet or a report. So far, in addition to working in the details in my Smartsheet or through these various collaboration apps, I've been able to streamline a lot of my work working in the same source of truth, but through various Microsoft apps as well as Smartsheet. I also have a need to understand my work at a higher level. So we've seen how we can create dashboards directly in Smartsheet, but we also have the availability to create visualization in Power BI to understand the work that we're actually managing in Smartsheet. So to take a look at how to do that, let's just refresh the sheet that we're working in. You'll see we have a lot of information here, and we're tracking rows, assigning to different colleagues, to regions, data types, months, and so on. So instead of having this core detailed set of data, I'm going to now move to Power BI and visualize this data, and then of course move it back into a Smartsheet dashboard where we're going to take the visualization power of Power BI and embed it into a dashboard that has important information and shortcuts in Smartsheet. When working in Power BI, I'm going to start first by selecting the Get Data option, and this will enable me to find this data set that we're working in Smartsheet. We'll find Smartsheet in the Online Services section. The navigator is going to show us something that should look pretty familiar by this point. So this is my same Smartsheet layout with the sheets as well as folders and workspaces that we have access to. And we'll head back to the same sheet that we've been working in this whole time. I'll go ahead and load this data. And now we can see all of the columns that are in that sheet over here in the field section to the right. Now I have the information that I need to start building my visualization and report. We're going to keep this pretty straightforward just so you can see me working with the data, and then we'll go take a look at how to actually embed this back into a Smartsheet dashboard. So I'll go ahead and select the type of chart that I'm working in, and then I can choose the fields that I want to visualize. Once I've selected those columns, I can organize that information to create the exact visualization that I need. So either keeping it pretty straightforward like the bar graph we have here, or of course making it more robust using the full capabilities of Power BI. Once I've created my report and I do want to see it back in Smartsheet, I can head up to my File menu, and this is where it's going to allow me to actually publish this information out to Power BI. Now, I want to demo this in a slightly more robust scenario, so I'm going to pull up a visualization in Power BI that we've already created. Here, I have a more robust Power BI dashboard that we've created. So in addition to having this available in Power BI, I can also head down to the bottom right and select the Share button and copy the Share URL. And then we're going to head back into Smartsheet and pull up the dashboard that we've looked at a couple times already today. So in my Smartsheet dashboard, we do already have some great data, and this is the dashboard that we've seen in Microsoft Teams. So I can select, edit, and add additional widgets to incorporate more information that is in Microsoft that we want to see in Smartsheet. So here I can click on my web content widget, and this is an avenue for embedding my Power BI information as well as information from other sources like PowerPoint Online, Word Online, Excel Online, and Bing. Here I just have to paste my URL for the Power BI dashboard that we were just visualizing, and this gets embedded directly into my Smartsheet dashboard towards the bottom here. Lastly, in addition to that Power BI information, I would also like to embed the information that's in my PowerPoint Online. I'll simply grab my share link, head back into Smartsheet, and we're going to just add another web content widget. And you'll see this is pretty straightforward. A web content widget allows you to really have a robust dashboard in Smartsheet, embedding information from a variety of sources, but it really is as simple sometimes as copying and pasting that embed URL. So once I've taken that action, my slides are now embedded into my dashboard as well, and I can do this with Microsoft PowerPoint, Word, and Excel Online. And if I wanted to really take it to the next level, I can also embed Bing Maps using the same process. So using all the integrations that we've seen in this demo, I'm able to manage my work across both Smartsheet and Microsoft, making updates, viewing files, and really integrating this data into either direction. Now, I know that was a lot of different steps, and most likely you're not going to be setting up every aspect of this, but with all of these capabilities at your fingertips with just a simple setup, you're able to have the information you need where you need it. And most importantly, you're working with a variety of collaborators. So you're meeting them where they do most of their work by syncing that data from one app to the other. So to review some of the items that we saw today, since we did look at a lot, we are able to manage documents. So any files that you have stored in OneDrive can be attached to sheets, rows in a sheet, as well as directly into your dashboard. You can work in Outlook, pulling up the information that you have in your Smartsheet, making updates to the row data, and even attaching the email directly to Smartsheet without leaving Outlook. And you have a lot of avenues for collaboration. So you can chat directly in Skype for Business when you're in Smartsheet, having these conversations and capturing them in the relevant rows. And we saw a lot of different avenues for working in Microsoft Teams. So this allows you to create a tab to view Smartsheet work directly in your Teams channel, as well as set up automation, either directing the Smartsheet bot to message you directly and individually, or even setting up automations to reach a channel, making sure that an entire group of people that's collaborating on the same work is receiving the same automations. We also looked at the visualization side of things. So incorporating this detailed collaborative Smartsheet data that we're working on directly into Power BI to visualize it with BI's robust capabilities, and embedding those BI reports back into Smartsheet dashboards to combine with the data and the capabilities that you have with Smartsheet. You can also embed additional Microsoft sources into Smartsheet dashboards, including PowerPoint, Word, and Excel Online, as well as Bing Maps. Now, in addition to those items that we've looked at, there are actually a couple capabilities that we didn't demo today that I do want to just surface in case these are relevant to the work that you're managing in Smartsheet. To simplify sign-on, we do have an integration with Active Directory, as well as a live data connector, which is going to allow you to sync your Smartsheet data out of Smartsheet directly into Excel. Lastly, we do have a Microsoft Dynamics connector, which is a premium app, so it's not something that I demoed today since it is an additional purchase on your account, but we have included links over in the resources widget to the right side of the page to learn more. And this allows you to streamline and create automatic workflows to sync information between Smartsheet and Dynamics 365. And this is really powerful because it can be used to kick off entire processes based on the activities and the status changes that are taking place in your CRM. We have time today for just a couple of the more popular questions that have come up over the course of today's webinar. So one of the questions that we saw was actually about Google. So we have all of these integrations with Microsoft products, and we had a couple attendees who were wondering if we had similar integrations available with Google Suite, and we absolutely do. So there's an integration with Gmail to work in Smartsheet through the right panel of your Gmail. Attach or embed files from Google Drive directly into your Smartsheet rows or into Smartsheet dashboards, as well as automating to Google Hangouts chat and other functionality. Many of the links that you'll find in the right side of our webinar page today do send you over to the Smartsheet Learning Center available at help.smartsheet.com, where we have additional resources about integrating your work with Google products as well as Microsoft products. We also had a couple questions come in about working in those published tabs in Microsoft Teams. One question I saw a couple times was whether it's possible to actually edit sheets when they've been added to that tab in your channel. And you can, as long as you publish that sheet in Smartsheet with edit by anyone permissions. When you incorporate that into your Microsoft Teams channel, it'll be edited by anyone who has access to that tab in your channel. We also had some users asking about the different views that are available for Smartsheet and whether that's visible in Microsoft Teams. So this includes, in addition to just working in the grid view, just that spreadsheet view, also the Gantt view, card view, or calendar view that you can toggle between at the top of your Smartsheet. When you're publishing your sheet in Smartsheet, the very last setting that you're going to be able to customize in that published view is your default view for your published sheet. And that's where you can indicate if you'd like to stick with the default, which is the grid view, or you'd like to publish and show the card view, the calendar view, or the Gantt view when you have a published item, and that item then will be reflected in that tab in Microsoft Teams. We also had some questions come in while we're speaking about all of these integrations, asking if Smartsheet integrates with other tools that you're already using. And we had a couple different ones listed, and typically the blanket answer for that is Smartsheet does have pre-built connectors for larger tools like Salesforce or Jira, or as I mentioned earlier, the Microsoft Dynamics connector. But we also have an open API, which means that you can build an integration with any tools that you use and Smartsheet. And we do have a consulting team that can help with this, or of course you can use your own dev resources in your organization. We also have a premium application called Data Uploader that can enable you to sync information into your Smartsheet from other sources. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to type into our questions window and we'll have one of our sales reps follow up with more information for you. Lastly, before we finish up today, I do want to share some additional resources. So while we learned about a lot of different capabilities today, there is a quick URL to remember, smartsheet.com/Microsoft, that will include links to all the relevant help articles for the capabilities we saw today. To visit our Learning Center directly, you can also head to smartsheet.com/learning, and to sign up for additional free webinars, head over to smartsheet.com/webinars. We offer new webinar topics every 2 weeks, and every week we do offer a free onboarding. So whether you're new to Smartsheet or you're introducing others to Smartsheet, make sure to sign up for Smart Start, which is available for anyone who'd like to learn how to get started. We do have a great training team that offers training and certification at smartsheet.com/training. And a common question that I get in these webinars, of course, is what are other Smartsheet users doing and asking? And our Smartsheet community is a great place to connect with these other users. In addition to connecting through community, we do have our annual user conference coming up, and this year it is going 100% virtual and free. So this is your opportunity. If you haven't been able to join us at one of our conferences the past couple years, head over to smartsheet.com/engage to see what we have on the agenda and get registered. Now, we have come to the end of our time today, and as always, we will follow up with a recording of this webinar, as well as links to some of these URLs that I just mentioned earlier, so you can learn more and get the details about how to set up these various integrations across Smartsheet and Microsoft. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and we hope to see you next time.